The official results from the Democratic mayoral primary are coming out this afternoon, but one thing is already certain. Zohran Mamdani's upset victory over Andrew Cuomo did not happen in a vacuum. There was an enormous generational shift in the New York electorate. The graph here goes from youngest to oldest, and you can see on the far left-hand side of your screen, the 18 to 24-year-olds were the largest group of voters, followed by 25 to 29-year-olds. And you can even see after that, going up to 34 years old, that continues as the biggest voting bloc. Now, compare that to the last mayoral primary 4 years ago. You've got 2021 on the right-hand side of your screen, and you can see that the graph is almost flip-flop there. On the far right-hand side of the screen, 60 to 70-year-olds were the biggest voting bloc. And the enthusiasm of young people didn't end in the voting booth. Run for Something is an organization dedicated to recruiting and supporting young candidates running for political office. And since Mamdani's win last week, 5,000 young people have reached out to the organization about running for office. Its biggest recruitment surge ever. Amanda Lippman is the co-founder and president of Run for Something. She is also the author of the new book, When We're in Charge: The Next Generation's Guide to Leadership. Amanda, good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Everyone's talking about the young kids. Everyone's talking about the enthusiasm. What stood out to you most on primary day?
That we saw young people across the country look at Zohran's win against the establishment, against the odds, and say, you know what? Maybe I can do this too. I am done being told to wait my turn. They are stepping up to running, and that this is our biggest organic candidate recruitment surge since Run for Something launched back in 2017. Tells me that this is a movement that is just beginning.
We saw something in his campaign. You saw it everywhere on social media. You couldn't escape it, even if you wanted to. He was everywhere.
He was everywhere, and especially on social media. It feels like that is where young voters are especially. I guess how much of the campaigning going forward can we expect to be on social media?
So much of it, and I think it was a perfect combination for him in a mix of his online presence, his real life presence. I know my door got knocked like a dozen times throughout the campaign, and the fact that his policies so clearly spoke to the issues that young people are experiencing. Things about cost of living, cost of housing, cost of childcare. The stuff that if you're a 20 or 30, even 40-something in New York City, or really anywhere, directly affect how you experience day-to-day life.
The new issue of New York Magazine, the cover this week, the big title on the front page says, "Surprised?" So you, 4 years ago, talked to Vox, and you said that as the progressive bench builds, Gracie Mansion and Governor's Mansions could be in reach for young progressives. When everyone else was surprised, you weren't. What were you seeing that everyone else wasn't?
You know, we have seen this over the years. Run for Something candidates have been able to conquer the odds. They have taken on long shot races and won because they can really connect to voters. Zohran Mamdani, while not a Run for Something candidate, is the perfect embodiment of the thousands of people we've helped elect across the country. You know, as the saying goes, I'm not new to this, I'm true to this. We've been talking about young people running and winning and changing the electorate in the process since we launched, and it's so excited to see it working in action.
There was so much talk leading up to primary day and even in the days after primary day about the weather and the heat that day and how that potentially kept older voters from getting out to the voting booth. I guess how much are you believing that? And are older voters, are older candidates getting this message that you are and that you have been getting?
I think so. You know, certainly the weather plays a part of it, but also it could have been raining, it could have been storming, it could have been windy. This is part of a campaign as you prepare for anything on election day. One of the things I've loved about the candidates we've worked with over the years is they'll say they knock on doors and talk to older voters, and older voters will often be the most excited for them because they give them hope. They inspire them to see the next generation stepping up and taking lead.
Let's talk about the older generations of the Democratic Party. Take a deep breath for a second, because we have been waiting one by one as a news organization to see who of the older generation of Democrats comes out and gives him a full-throated endorsement. And many have waited, and maybe some of it is they were waiting for the actual tabulations today. We can give them that. But what have you seen in the older generation so far, and does that give you pause? Are you hoping that they come around faster?
They are afraid. they are risk averse. And I think that's foolish because the risk averse playbook that they are working from is what got us into this mess in the first place with President Trump and the Republican Party currently trying to strip health care from millions of Americans in Congress. I am so hopeful that as these Democratic elected officials see the final votes today, they will come around. If they don't, if they refuse to stand behind the fairly elected Democratic nominee of this primary, it's going to be on them when people don't trust the party. It's going to be on their shoulders.
Before I let you go, you are expanding your infrastructure because of the numbers that I mentioned when I first introduced you. You have had such a surge of increase in enthusiasm and people wanting to run. What are you doing at Run for Something?
You know, Run for Something has been building to this moment. We're launching a big new community program on July 15th. You can get more information on our website about how to join. And we, of course, welcome every donation because to do this work for the long haul is going to require as much resources as we can.
It is so good to have you here this morning. So good to get tapped into what all the kids are saying and doing. Amanda, thank you.
Thank you.